Hey, this is Don from Padlock Technologies again with another video. Today we are going to finish out our service provider QoS series with short pipe mode. So we did uniform mode, we did pipe mode. If you haven't seen those two videos, I'm going to put a link in the description. Watch those two videos and then come back to this because this is kind of the final lap of this, right? QoS for service provider. Now, the difference between short pipe mode and the other two is we are going to make our policies. Remember, this is on the ingress or the egress PE. We are going to make our policy based on what is in the customer packet, the QoS marking that is in the customer packet. So we're not going to copy anything to a QoS group. We're not going to copy the markings down to the customer packet. We're not going to do any of that. The only thing we're going to do is we are going to take our customer markings and create a policy at the end, at the egress, and then that packet is going to go to the other end of the customer, right? So let's go into the lab, and I'm going to show you exactly what this looked like. Now, before we do that, I'm going to ask you for a favor. You know what that favor is. If you like what you see in this video, I have plenty of other videos, plenty of other things that you can learn on this channel. Please don't forget to share, comment, like, and subscribe to the channel because I roll out videos like this all the time. And I'm pretty sure if you're watching this video, you're probably going to like the rest of our content. So let's go in here and look at the lab, and I will show you short pipe mode for service provider QoS. All right, so you've seen this lab before in the other two videos. Nothing's really changed other than instead of saying explicit null, we're using the implicit null. So on the egress router, the ultimate router, we have removed the command MPLS LDP explicit null. We removed that command. So now it is an implicit null. So the top label, transport label, pen hop ultimate process there, or pen hop popping process is going to happen here. So the top label, transport label, will be popped off. And the only thing that's going to get to, let's say, router 5 is going to be the VPN label and the customer packet. And then when it gets to the ultimate router, which is the egress, we're going to pop off that VPN label like we normally would do. Don't really care about that at this point. And then we're going to have the QoS policy based on the customer packet. So just to show you, and we have the marking going in as EF. So at the end, at router 5, we're going to be making our policy based on the marking of EF. So let's review here that we are marking everything from an outbound perspective. And I'm just going to run through this real quick because this should be a short video this time. And we go to policy map. So what we're doing is we're just matching this traffic. We're setting it to EF and we're doing a priority queue, all right? 10%. So now on the inbound, this has not changed, right? So if you watch the pipe mode video, none of this has changed. So if we look at our policy map, we got an inbound one and we got an outbound one. So basically what we do on the inbound is we're just matching the EF value that we're taking in, and we're doing an imposition of 5, so our IP precedent value of 5. And then we're sending it out, basically matching that value of 5, and then we are just doing a priority queue, right? Same thing. On router 3, it's going to come on the inbound. So when it sees a packet with the experimental bits of 5 in there, it's going to change it to 3 for whatever reason. I just never changed it. And it's going to send it to the penultimate router, which is the router right before the egress, right? Now, when router 4 gets it, it is going to pop off now that 3 label, right? The top label, the transport label, because we have a PHP process happening because we're using that implicit null, which is a label 3, by the way. Always remember, label 3, implicit, label 0, explicit, label 1 is going to be an alert label, but that's really about, that's really about trace route in a service provider environment that we're not really worried about. And then router 5 will only get that VPN label in the customer packet. And then on the outbound here, we are going to match. So we are going to just, actually, I think I'm in user example. Oh, there we go. We're going to match. So what we're going to do Now this one is for, I think I was using this for pipe mode, so I really didn't get rid of this, right? I didn't really get rid of the commands. What we're really worrying about here is this one here. So this class QoS out. So if we look at the class map here, all I did was change the class map to look for the value of EF instead of what we did last time, which was look for the QoS group 3 or match the QoS group 3. So now, here it is right here. Now, in the pipe video, this was match QoS group 3. That's what we had when we did the pipe video, right? Now we're doing short pipe. What we're doing is we're matching the EF value that's going to be in the customer packet in the toss bits. We're going to match that because once we pop off the VPN label, the only thing we're left with is the customer packet, right? So then we're going to match that, and then we're just going to do another priority queue, right? Another priority queue just going out to the router 6, which is the customer network. So that is really the only thing that changed. I removed the explicit null and made it an implicit null, and then we're matching on the customer marking and not the SP marking. So now when we do the ping, and this time I'm going to do the trace route, not the trace route, I'm going to capture just on the egress this time. And I'm only doing that so you can see that we're only going to get, because we have the implicit null, we're only going to get the VPN label in the customer packet here. So that means that top label of 3 is going to disappear when we do this, right? Because of the PHP process. Ping, run 6, and we're going to do it for the loop back there. Now here's the packet that we're looking for. Now remember, in the other 2 videos, since we were using the explicit null, we saw instead of a pop action happening, it swapped it with that explicit null label, right? But this time we only see VPN label, right? And you see the 5 is still there, right? You see the 5 there. And then we see the EF is still in that marking in the customer packet. Now just to show you a little bit more here, hopefully that comes back. Might have to refresh the window here because it got stuck for some reason. So let's capture on the ingress of router 4 so you can see that I in fact got a label 3. All right, so which would be the top label at that point. Put that over here. Stop it. That label. Yeah, it should be this one here. All right, so as you can see, because I only did it in one direction, that's why you saw 5 and 5, but that was from going from 6 to 1, not 1 to 6. And the QoS policy is technically going from 1 to 6. So here's the source of 1 to 6. Here, I told you that we're going to remark it to 3, so that's the remarking of 3. And then you saw on the ultimate router, that 3 label got popped off, or that the transport label got popped off with the experimental bit of the QoS marking of 3. So we only got a 5 and then the customer packet. So that tells you that that's working the way it's supposed to, because we're not going to actually make our decision on the 3. We're actually going to make our decision on the customer packet. So really the service label toss bit, or not toss bit, experimental bits don't even matter in this situation as well, because we're not really making our policy based on that. That's pipe mode. So now when we look at, we're going to capture in this direction now. So we're going to capture from the egress PE going to the CE, which is the customer edge. If you don't know what PE and CE is, PE is provider edge, CE is customer edge. not to be confused with PCE, which is the path computation element when you're dealing with MPLS SRTE. So we'll do that. And as you can see, our customer marking is still there. So our per hop behavior, which is PHB, customer marking is still here. And this is what we ultimately are going to create the policy on. Now you're probably asking like, hey, we didn't really see the policy. So let's go into the ultimate router, which is the egress router, and I'll show you what the policy looks like from a detailed perspective. So we're going to clear the actual counters on this router, and then I'm going to run it again. So first things first, we do show policy map interface G1. So here you go with the counters. All right, and now we're going to clear policy map counters. Yes. So now that should be zeroed out. All right, so right here, zeroed out. Okay, that's what we got. So this will solidify that we're actually making our policy on the customer marking and not the SP marking when we run this again. Now it does take a little while to update. So I'm going to repeat this 100 times so that it catches up. All right, so we went through. So now, give it some time to catch up here. There you go. So I sent 100 packets, right? And my packets were marked with EF because it matched EF. If it wasn't working, that means it didn't see the EF in the customer packet, and we wouldn't be actually hitting this policy right here, right? We wouldn't be hitting this. We would be hitting the class default, which that's not what we're doing here. We're actually hitting our policy, right? We're hitting our policy based on the customer markings and not SP markings. And that is really short pipe in a nutshell. All right, so let's get out this lab and let's review what we did. All right, so that was MPLS SP, our service provider QoS short pipe mode in a nutshell. Okay, we have now done uniformed pipe, or they used to call it long pipe, and then short pipe mode. So now, if you watch all three of these videos, you should be well versed in how MPLS is or QoS is done in a service provider network. You should be well versed in that now. So I hope you liked this video. If you haven't subscribed already, again, please don't forget to share, comment, like, and subscribe. I got another cool video about carrier support carrier, which is CSC or C2C, depending on who you ask. They changed the acronyms, but depending on who you ask. So I have a real cool video about that. And I'm going to be demonstrating MPLS L3 VPNs and virtual private wire services in that video. So be on the lookout for that because that's going to be fun. This is Don from Padlock Technologies again. Thank you and have a nice day.